Hey guys, my name's Adam, your friendly Sasquatch, and today we're going to be doing a review of Leatherman's K2 and K4 multi-tool knives. And just right off the bat, can you guess which one it is? Probably not. They're very similar. This one is the K4, and we know that because it says K4 right on the outside. There's a couple other small differences, but other than that, these knives are a very similar format and are going to be very compelling options if you're looking for a knife with a couple tools built into the handle. I have to be kind of honest, guys, when I started digging into multi-tool knives, I was surprised how few options there were. You know, there's a bunch of multi-tools, the plier-based tools with knives built into the handle, but if you just want a knife, you don't want the extra bulk and weight of the pliers, there's surprisingly few options. Victorinox has some options with their Swiss Army knife tools, and I believe SOG had kind of a goofy option that I wasn't super compelled with. Leatherman by far has probably the most bomb-proof option, and we'll kind of go into that a little bit later. But you know, there's surprisingly few options for multi-tool knives. So as I said earlier, these tools are very similar. The K2 has all the same features as the K4 except for the scissors, and the K2 is just a little bit lighter because of that. So when we get to the differences between these tools, I'll bring the K2 into the picture, but for now, let's just go ahead and look primarily at the K4 because it's basically the same tool. When closed, the K4 is 4.5 inches long, 1.3 inches wide, and 0.625 inches thick. It weighs 5.5 ounces, which is one of the differences from the K2, which only weighs 4.9 ounces. Now, if you weren't paying very close attention, that's a surprisingly big knife. On paper, this thing doesn't look that big. It does fill the hand quite a bit, and I'm going to get my Leatherman Wave out here just for comparison. And you can start to see just how big this knife actually is. This is going to be a workhorse, guys. This isn't just a teeny little keychain knife. This is a full-size utility knife. Getting the blade out, we have a 3.3 inch 420 HC stainless steel blade. And comparing that to the Leatherman Wave, we have a 3.1 inch blade. So again, this is a serious knife, guys. It's going to be quite a bit bigger than the knife you're already carrying, or right around the same size as a truly full-size knife. So I just wanted to get the Leatherman Wave out real quick, just to kind of show you how big this knife is, because on paper it looks, the lines are really smooth and fluid and it doesn't look overly big. And then you put it next to something like the Leatherman Wave, you're like, okay, no, that's a big knife. For a quick weight comparison, the Leatherman Wave is 8.7 ounces and the K4 here is 5.5 ounces. So the Wave is still about 3.2 ounces heavier, or 40% heavier than the Leatherman Free K4. Something else to consider is the Leatherman Wave does not come with a pocket clip like the K4 does, which would be something extra you have to buy separately if you want the convenient carry that this knife offers. So that's kind of the size and weight of this knife. Let's go ahead and open it back up and take a closer look at the blade. So this is a 420 HC stainless steel blade, which is basically the same stainless steel that Leatherman's been using on all their multi-tools for years. It's a good blade, easy to sharpen, has pretty good durability, and it holds an edge pretty well. Something that I do wish Leatherman would have done with this particular knife, since it is a very knife-focused tool, is maybe giving us an option to upgrade the blade steel to something like 154 cm or even S30V. I would have been okay paying a little additional for that premium as an option. But the 420 HC stainless steel blade is a good blade for most people. The blade itself is 0.125 inches, or 1/8 of an inch, with a really nice hollow grind to it. I don't know if you can kind of see it, but the hollow grind comes up to about the mid part of the spine. And then it has a nice drop point, which can be great for, kind of the draw cuts and stuff like that you might be doing on a workbench or a job site, something like that. To close the knife up, we just use the thumb lever on the side, and then it comes right in. One thing I do want to point out about the thumb lever is it is on both sides of the knife, which means that this knife is going to be great for righties or lefties. So again, one-hand deployable knife, and you can close it one-handed, no problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other end of the knife. Using your thumb, you can deploy all the tools, and let's kind of take a closer look at what each tool is. First up are the scissors, which was the one thing that the K2 did not have. So let's go ahead and get the K2 out just so you can see the difference. When I open the K2 up, you'll see that it only has 3 tools instead of 4. The other 3 tools are the same between the K2 and the K4. So those are the scissors. They are spring-loaded. They got the little spring bar there, and they feel nice and tight and snippy. They're going to do a great job. So if you need a pair of scissors on your multi-tool or knife, the K4 is going to be the option for you. To close up the end tools here, it's the same as like on the front. We have a pull lever, and the tool just comes in. For a right-handed person, it's pretty easy. You just push down with your thumb. On the other side, where a left-handed person would use the lever, you kind of got to get your thumb underneath that pocket clip. You can't just push from the top. You got to kind of get your thumb underneath the pocket clip before you can get the tool closed up. So just kind of a heads up for lefties, the pocket clip does kind of get in the way. That being said, there are holes on the other side of the frame, so you can move the pocket clip to this side if that's the lever you want to use frequently. So popping the tool back open, simply using your thumb, spreading the tools out, and let's go ahead and take a look at the other three tools that the K4 has that are also on the K2. So as you can see, we have the Phillips head screwdriver, the awl/mini screwdriver head, the flathead screwdriver that has the kind of box cutter or small blade in there. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Phillips head screwdriver. It does have a cap lifter on it, so after a hard day of work, you can open up your favorite beverage. And then it has this nook in here, which is kind of a wire bender, which I actually kind of find kind of nice. You just put a heavy piece of wire in there and you can bend it. It's great for getting things set up, putting terminals and stuff like that. The tip here is a kind of a 2D Phillips drive. It's not as bad as like some of the bit adapters I've seen on other tools, but it is not the full 3D type Phillips heads. Works great on number 1 and number 2 Phillips heads. You might run into some issues with some of your larger sizes with more torque. Closing it up, let's go ahead and take a look at the next tool. And this is the awl/mini screwdriver tip. And I know a lot of people have kind of complained about having a mini screwdriver tip on the awl, but I kind of think you're either going to want the awl or you're going to want the mini screwdriver. You're probably not going to need both. So Leatherman tried to put both of them into one tool, and yeah, I kind of have to agree with a lot of people. In awl, you should really have a really hard piercing tip that comes to a fine point. And as a mini screwdriver, this actually works pretty good. It works good on gun sights and stuff like that. I've been pretty happy with the mini screwdriver. So I guess you could just call it a mini screwdriver with a hole in it. It does kind of have a sharpened edge right here, so it does work pretty good as a paint scraper too. And finally, the last tool is the flathead screwdriver/box cutter, or package opener, I think they call it. This works really good. I like to use this as like a pry bar or something like that. And the box cutter works great for saving your knife blade when you're cutting open boxes, maybe plastic off pallets and stuff like that. You know, at work we get, you know, machinery strapped down to pallets and stuff. And I like to use this in case you run into a few staples or something like that. You're not dinging up your good knife blade. Okay, so that was kind of the quick and dirty of the size and weight, the knife blade, and the tools that come on the Leatherman K2 and K4. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other features that really set this knife apart from some of its competition. First is the knife is great for lefties and righties. The lever to unlock both the knife blade and the tools are on both sides of the handle. And the pocket clip can be moved from one side to the other with the pre-drilled mounting hole. So A+ for lefties and righties. I'm really glad to see Leatherman did that. On all of Leatherman's Free series, they've been kind of advertising their magnetic architecture. So, you know, it's easy to fan out the tools, and then when you're done using them, you just push them all in and the magnet keeps them in there. And it works pretty good. One of the criticisms I had of Leatherman's Free P series is they had in their tool collection here some files, and files just don't really mix very well with magnets. You know, you get the filings loose and then they get down here and gum up your mechanism because, well, they're metal shavings and they're magnetic. So I was glad to see that Leatherman did not put a file on the K2 or K4. Not that I wouldn't find it useful, but it kind of presents a problem when you have magnets inside the mechanism of the tool. Now holding this, you might think that these black scales are plastic, and they're actually not. They're aluminum. They're anodized aluminum. So this thing is just a huge chunk of aluminum and steel. So it's basically bomb-proof. And if you open it up, you can even see that Leatherman put steel liners on the inside of the frame. So they're not messing around with this thing, guys. This thing is entirely metal, has steel liners, and the outside aluminum is really nicely done. It's contoured nicely, so it's easy to slide your thumb down to the blade for one-handed deployment. But, you know, it's still relatively wide in the back to hold the multiple tools that are available. So I think they did a really good job kind of blending the thicker elements of a multi-tool to the more narrow element for one-handed deployment of the blade. So I'm really impressed with the implementation of the aluminum scales and handle on this knife. They really thought this design out. I'm sure they had to go through a couple iterations to get it right. We briefly talked about the pocket clip earlier when we were talking about how we can move it from one side to the other to access the right and left hand thumb side for the tools. But I do want to point out a couple little things. They made sure that they put a deep pocket clip on here, which makes the knife carry really well. And again, I did like that the pocket clip is on the right and left hand side, and I do like it's provided with the knife. Some of their other Free series multi-tools have the holes for them, but the pocket clip doesn't come included. So when you're buying a knife, it's really nice to be able to pocket carry it. So I'm glad that the pocket clip comes with this one. One last thing I kind of want to point out is on the back of the handle, we do have some jimping here. We don't have any jimping on the spinal blade, but it is nice that we have a little bit here to give us a little bit extra purchase when really working on a hard cutting task. The aluminum scales also have a little bit of a front finger hook to make sure your hand doesn't accidentally slide forward when you're doing piercing type tasks. So this is going to be a relatively safe knife to use just from the ergonomics of the handle. Alright guys, so that was my quick and dirty overview of the Leatherman K4 and the Leatherman K2. And what kind of got me looking into these knives with multi-tools on them is I was using my Benchmade, and see how I broke that tip off? Yeah, not cool. This is like a $300 knife, guys. And what kind of sucks is, I was just using this because it's what I had on me. And I was trying to pry open a light fixture of all things. Where if I had something like this, I could just use the flathead screwdriver as a pry bar. And that's where a tool like this really shines, is you can protect your knife blade and you can do a lot more work with it with things that you just simply couldn't do with other knives. And when I kind of got digging into knives that have like pry bar, a screwdriver, and some of those other functions, there weren't really a lot of other options. I was kind of surprised. It seemed so practical. Really, the only other decent options I saw were kind of the Swiss Army Victorinox knives, and they're just a lot lighter weight knife. They're very functional, but they're not nearly as bomb-proof as something like this. Again, this thing has solid aluminum scales, steel liners, and it's just this is just next level, guys. You can't really compare the Victorinox Swiss Army knives to these. These are just much bigger, much more capable knives. So yeah, I was really surprised how few options there were. If you just need a knife with a couple features on it, you don't need the pliers, you don't need 15 different tools. You just need a screwdriver, an awl, and maybe a pair of scissors. And that's where the Leatherman K2 and K4 really shine. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button below. It helps the channel out a lot. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you'll first be notified when I release new videos just like this one. Cheers!